welcome back to Right Hand, Left Hand. We took a little bit of a break last week, had some stuff going on, and need a little bit of time off. Unfortunately, it came right after the excellent UFC 263 card, where Josh and I continued with another week of deadlock in our picks challenge. We both went 4-3, so Josh is now trailing me. He's 25-18, and I'm one pick up on it, 26-17. We saw Nate Diaz take an L to Leon Edwards. We saw Brandon Moreno, who I know we both want to give a big a big shit out to the first Mexican champion in the UFC. So congratulations to Brandon Moreno on that front. I had Figgy in that one, so it hurt a little bit, but good to see a Mexican champion. I know how important fighting is in Mexico as a sport. And then, of course, Israel Adesanya mocking and taunting Marvin Vettori, who is deluding himself, thinking that he won that fight. But I want to start with Nate Diaz, man. He got that shot in at the end of the fight on Leon, knocked him down. That was wild. He wobbled the hell out of Leon. He went down. I saw the fight flash before my eyes there. I think I had hit the Lopez locks over 4.5 at that point, though, so it was actually just interesting to me, even though I'm not a big Nate Diaz guy, as you know, as evidenced by my background here. I just don't think he's that great of a fighter. He just has an amazing chin, and I think personally, my opinion is that they won't do this because he makes them too much money, but I think it's time for the UFC to kind of retire Nate Diaz. I mean, he was a plus 450 dog or whatever.
I have to disagree with you on that, man. I love me some Nate Diaz. The reason why I do love Nate Diaz is because he asked for that fight, and he asked for a Leon Edwards, he's probably one of the top guys in that welterweight division. Nate is not a natural 170er. He should be fighting at 155. I know he doesn't want to cut that weight. I get it. But, at the same time, if he thinks he can beat these guys, I mean, hell, he almost did. He almost shocked the world at the very end. Where he goes from here, I see a Jorge Masvidal fight maybe. I know Jorge, I've seen that he wants to come back in October, November, somewhere around that time period. And then we've got a big fight coming up with Conor, and if Conor loses, I think that's the only fight that that's the only fight Conor can have left is that Nate Diaz trilogy. So I think Nate's got a lot of options that he can work with after this. I don't see it as a huge setback because, like you said, he was a plus 450 dog. And so I think he has a lot of great matchups that he can go from here.
As a money-making vessel, yes, but as far as entertaining and competitive fights go, I just don't think there's a whole lot left to be mined from the Nate Diaz source there.
Yeah, I think he has a lot left. I mean, I don't think he's one of those guys that I'm title or bust. He's one of those, he's looking for money fights. That's what he wants.
Izzy, on that note, Adesanya got a dominating performance over Marvin Vettori, who I don't think he really believes in his heart of hearts that he won that fight. He wants to say that so that he can potentially get a rematch. I don't think he deserves a rematch. I think it's got to be Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, man, I had to eat my words on this one, for sure. I mean, I like Marvin. Don't get me wrong, but you're a little delusional, my man. If you think he won that fight.
We got some big news actually to announce. Josh, would you like to handle that?
Yes, I will. So we got some big news. Two things. First, Five West, who I've got right here on the hat, they will be sponsoring the podcast. So shout out to them. We appreciate everything you guys done. They've created our logo for us. They've done the banners. They've done some social media work for us. So appreciate them for all the work that they do. Next, they have also signed one of our guests, Marco Deckman. He will be doing sponsorship with them. He will be on their shorts for boxing, the walkout. So check it out. Follow Marco, follow Five West, and don't forget to follow us as well. So we'll be getting some more stuff coming out, and we're so excited and blessed. And thank you, Five West. Thanks, Marco. And that's all I got, man.
Too blessed to stress.
That's right. So one of the things that happened over the weekend too, John, I wanted to talk about was our boy Anderson Silva stepping into the boxing ring and dominating a former boxing great. You know, he's fought the best. He's fought Canelo. He's fought the who's who in boxing. And Anderson Silva made Julio Cesar Chavez look like an amateur. He was playing with him. He was doing the patented Anderson Silva, come on, and pointing. It was a spectacle that Anderson Silva put on. Man, with all this stuff with MMA fighters getting knocked out by YouTubers, and then Anderson Silva just going in there against one of boxing's great. And don't get me wrong, he has Cesar Chavez missed weight against Anderson Silva this time and had to forfeit tons of money. He's done that in his past. He's never been one of those guys that's been super committed. He's definitely rode the coattails of his dad, and made a name off of that from his name essentially. So it was nice to see a win for the MMA community this over the weekend.
With what happened to Ben Askren and what I feel is probably going to happen to Tyron Woodley, it was nice to see a guy who is still out there doing it, able to
his 40s.
His 40s, yeah. And he, honestly, I was pretty surprised. He didn't look great in his last fight. But, yeah, like you said, Chavez is, I love a good who's who. Chavez has fought a who's who. Some might say a murderer's row of boxers, which is worse, which is better, I guess, a who's who or a murderer's row.
Sounds the same to me, really. Murderer's row and who's who, man. You're still fighting the best of the best. I mean, and that's what he did later on in his career. He didn't beat most of them, but, I mean, you're still in the ring with them, and that's no joke. You know what the problem with boxing is, man? They don't market their athletes. They don't do a very good job of that. Lomachenko's fighting this weekend. Did you know that?
Nope.
See? They do an awful job of marketing. I don't know what it is. Lomachenko's one of the greats, man. I mean, to be honest with you, in his last fight, I thought it was a close fight. It was a split decision loss, but it could have gone either way. I think, it's just awful how boxing treats their athletes sometimes, man. And I just wish that they would do a better job of it, as far as they don't put them in a situation to win unless you're a Floyd, unless you're a Canelo, unless you're, a Triple G. Unless you're the Tyson Fury, who, he had to make his own name essentially, really, and say like how Conor does. Conor, he's brash, he's outspoken, and he does things that most people aren't comfortable with doing.
And I think that's one of the good things, actually, that these YouTubers are bringing to the equation is they're exposing the flaws in the ability of boxing to market and make money for its athletes, and even in the UFC, right? Because the reason they're getting these Tyron Woodleys and Ben Askrens to come over and fight them, and I think Tyron Woodley will take it a lot more seriously than Ben Askren did, but the reason they're getting that is because Ben Askren made more that one night than he probably had in the rest of his UFC career.
Because, I mean, if you look at Mexico, man, look, Canelo, man, he's huge there. I mean, boxing is still a big sport in a lot of places. Like Manny Pacquiao is still a massive star in the Philippines. It's just about where you are. I think in America, boxing might not be as big of a sport as it used to be. When you had the Mike Tysons, you had those heavyweight champs. And that's the one big thing that hurts us now is, America doesn't have a heavyweight champ. They had Deontay Wilder, but we're going to see that fight again. He's not going to.
I can't imagine how it would go his way.
I don't either. I mean, that last fight was just a pure clinic. And he can say whatever he wants about gloves being whatever. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter.
You watch that fight, he's not going to win a rematch of that fight.
Yeah. So. But yeah, I'm happy for Anderson Silva. I know we got a little off topic on there, but I'm glad to see him get the victory for MMA and get the sport back in the right direction. And here's my shout out to Budweiser. This Bud's for you, John.
Thank you. Okay, well, my topic this week is Carl Nassib, defensive end for the Oakland Raiders, came out as gay earlier this week, the first active NFL player to come out. We did have Michael Sam a few years back, who was the first NFL draft pick to be openly gay, but he never played in an NFL game. I think he made it onto the roster for training camp in the preseason. But Nassib is the real deal. He's on a 3-year, $25 million contract with the Raiders. He also played for the Browns. I believe that was where he was drafted. And so without getting into too much of the NFL dynamics, what I'm really interested in, because it's kind of obvious the NFL being, and not that UFC or MMA isn't this in the men's divisions, it's a macho environment, but the pressure on somebody in a 53-man locker room and the diversity of different upbringings and opinions and stuff that could lead to some serious, homophobic and negative experiences for that guy to go through, for Carl Nassib to go through. And I should also say that he's donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project, which helps work to prevent suicide in LGBTQ youth. LGBTQ youth are up to 40% more likely to die from suicide than their heterosexual peers. So it's a really great cause that he's donating there too. But the thing that's interesting to me is that in MMA, the women's divisions are full of numerous gay fighters, right? But between the two of us, I don't know if you can think of one, but I certainly can't think of an openly gay male MMA fighter.
I got nobody off the top of my head.
Right. So you would think it would be an easier environment than the NFL, for example, or even the NBA, which fancies itself a progressive league. So I just am curious if you have thoughts or opinions on why we don't see openly gay, because numerically there have to be openly gay MMA fighters, right? There's thousands of MMA fighters. There's hundreds in the UFC alone. And you add in other promotions, Bellator and other smaller promotions. It's just really curious to me.
Yeah, I mean, while you were talking, I was looking up to see if there was any openly gay UFC fighters or MMA fighters in general, and nothing came up from the search that I did. I don't really have a lot to say about it, man. It's a good for him. I'm sure there's some fighters in the UFC that are gay. They just won't come out. It's more trying to think of how to word this because
I mean, you've been in this culture for longer than I have, right? You've been following mixed martial arts for much longer than I have. So to me, like, Amanda Nunes is the biggest star in the women's division, and she's married to a woman with a child, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of them. Jessica Andrade is another one. She's been a champion. There's tons of openly gay women, and it's almost more acceptable for women to come out than it is for men. And
that's what I don't understand. Is it?
Yeah.
Because it's not a team sport, right? You have your training team, of course.
Yeah, you have your team around you. Yeah.
But you can make your own way. Like, you don't, quote unquote, need them the way that you do in an NFL locker room, right? You could.
Right.
You're not ingrained into the sort of team the same way, right? If you really want to leave someplace, you can leave someplace. Unlike in the NFL where you're under contract, and this guy now
he's stuck there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's stuck there for 2 years, and if one of the defensive line coach hates gay people, right, his job just became insanely more difficult.
Yeah, I don't think we have that as much anymore as it used to be. I mean,
you'd be surprised.
I'm sure there's some people that hate, gay people or hate, what race or whatever you are. But I think it's a lot less than it used to be. Because for me, just me as like, we came up to this podcast. So, this is our baby, I don't care if you were gay. Like, as long as you do your job and do what pull your weight, it doesn't matter to me. Like, that's That's the only thing I care about is me personally. If you do what you're supposed to do and you show up on time, you do your thing, and you work great, and I don't care what you do on your personal time. That's your personal time.
Funny you should mention showing up to things on time as the person who was about 20 minutes late for the recording today. But no, that's the way it should be, right? Gay people shouldn't feel it shouldn't be a big deal, but unfortunately, it is because they feel like negative things, and with good reason. They feel like negative things can come their way, and unfortunately, there are still a lot of people out there. You're right. Certainly not as many as there used to be, decades ago, but there's definitely still work to be done on this front, and that's why people like Carl Nassib, and why it would be great for a UFC fighter, or even a lower promotion, any MMA fighter to male fighter to come out, just because that representation and visibility is helpful for some little gay kid out there who wants to play football but doesn't see a gay professional football player. He might not pursue his dream. He might be a great athlete and not pursue his dream because he doesn't see anybody like him out there. So it's just really important for this type of representation and visibility. Even if you don't care, there are still a lot of people out there who do. Just look at your local internet comments section. Not ours though, because nobody comments on ours.
We got family and friends that come on ours and told us how big of an idiots we are. So that's as far as our comments go.
All right, so a couple of weeks ago, we spoke with Bryan Betts. He's a friend of Josh's. I never actually got the chance to meet him when I was in Nashville, although I am in honor of Bryan wearing my Preds shirt here.
He is a big Preds fan.
He's a big Nashville sports guy, so we'll talk a little bit of Titans with him, and he is a drummer as well, so he's got some cool stories from when he was on the road.
Well, guys, we're excited to be joined here with Bryan Betts. He's a good friend of ours. We used to work together. Drummer, huge Titans fan. He's going to talk some Julio. Tell us how he got into drumming. Bryan, go ahead and tell us your story, man. I'm interested in hearing about it. I know you do a lot of traveling. You've had some crazy stories going to Texas, being on yachts and everything like that.
Yeah.
Give me the rundown, man.
Yeah. Well, I actually started out in the sports world playing baseball. And I met a friend through there, and he had an older brother that was really into music and all that stuff. And I grew up with older sisters, so man, I listened to like Backstreet Boys and Shania Twain. So I didn't know anything I know now. And he showed me Nirvana. His older brother did. And he like let me borrow the record, and he had a drum set up in his house. And I remember hearing like In Bloom for the first time off that Nirvana album, and I was like, man, I want to learn how to do that. And so I just stuck with it, and just kind of listened to it every day a little bit, and kind of got into Green Day and like Blink-182 and all that. And one day his mom called my mom and was like, hey, we're driving through checking out these. Oh, do you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, man. I had something pop up on my computer. Dang. Hang on. There we go.
Been watching too much porn on there, man.
Yeah. No, so yeah, they were rolling through. Were your guys' parents like big into like yard sales?
Not really.
No, that was like a huge thing for my mom and like her friends. They did a bunch of yard sale stuff. So they found this drum set for $50 at a garage sale, and it was a piece of garbage, dude. It was terrible, but it got me started. So I used that, and that's kind of how I started playing, man. I just taught myself for a few years, and then that was kind of like right when it's so funny to talk about, because like YouTube's such a huge thing now, but like it really wasn't back then. And now, back then it was like a new thing, and you could log on and try to find some stuff. And if you want to look up drum stuff now, it's all over the place. But
right. Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much teach yourself anything on YouTube now.
Yeah, man. But really, I just had. Yeah, I mean, it was a CD player, and I had headphones, and I would just try to work myself through that Nirvana Nevermind record. Man, I think too. I think it's become more of like an addiction thing for me. Like even like playing down on Broadway. Just I mean, you get 300-400 people packed in there, but like you just never get tired of that feeling of playing in front of people and them clapping and cheering your name and stuff like that. It's just it's more of like an addiction at this point, I think.
What's your favorite road story?
The ones I can talk about.
Yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
Because remember, this is
the
gonna
ones
be.
that you can't actually.
I would too. But this is gonna be posted, so let's hear a good one. Like right in the middle.
All right, man. I've got a cool one. I've got a couple. So,
you ain't got to name names. You can say Bob and Billy Joe, whoever.
All right, I'm gonna give you like polar opposite. Like, do you want the bad one first, or do you want the like the cool one?
Whichever one you want to give.
All right. I'll start with the bad one, dude, because this was borderline one of like the worst experiences of my life. It was awful, and it was my first experience on the road. So, I put out a Craigslist ad when I was 20 years old. This guy hit me up, Shelby, that I still play with now. Actually, he was like, his drummer had died of a heart attack. He had an older guy, and he had 2 weeks to find a drummer for like a 7.5-week tour. And so I was working at Puckett's at the time in Franklin. So I got the gig, and then he sent me like 4 songs to learn. So I learned them. I took a bunch of Adderall and locked myself in my sister's old room where my drums were, and learned those songs. And then he texted me back and was like, "Hey man, like you got the gig. We leave on this day." And I was like, "Oh man." So I had to walk in. I quit my job at Puckett's, just like up and quit. I was a host at the time. I didn't really care. And dude, I thought I made it big. Like I was like, I'm gonna go out on like a bus and whatever. Dude, this guy pulls up, and he pulls up in a church van, like a 15-passenger church van. And we were going to the tour was, we had one stop in Columbia, Missouri. We were going all the way up to North Dakota, and we went through Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, and then back to Nashville, all on like set. And then you just play like, it was like Monday through Friday playing. And man, we're driving. So we hit the show in Columbia, and it was amazing. And I got to like drink underage, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like it was pretty awesome being out. And dude, we had been in the van for like it was like a 17-hour drive, and we had been in there for like probably like 13 hours. We had like 4 hours left on the drive to Cheyenne, Wyoming, and our bus broke down. It was like it ended up being like a speed sensor, so we couldn't go above 35 miles an hour for the last like 4 hours of the trip, dude. It was awful. So we had this huge church van, and Shelby's got his name plastered all over it, and we're driving down the road, and he's like checking his Facebook, and people are just blasting him on Facebook because he's got his like Facebook handles. So they're just sending him all this, and they're like, "You driving like an asshole," and stuff like that. Think about it. So we got to Wyoming, and that's the scariest thing on the planet, is being somewhere that you don't trust like any auto mechanics and having like a vehicle issue like that. So he's trying to take it in somewhere, and then pays like $2,500 or something to get like a new transmission, and it wasn't. It was like a speed sensor thing. All it was like a little $70 sensor. But that week when we were stuck, it didn't have the van. So I was just like living in I was just like in the hotel. You couldn't do anything. And I was like, man, if this is how it's going to be on these trips, like I don't know if I want to do that. Like, so I kind of had like a come to Jesus thing, and I was like, you know, I'm going to give it a couple more tries, and it's actually ended up panning out. There's a saying here in Nashville where it's, you know, Nashville's a 10-year town. If you want to make it, like if you want to get to like your peak, like where you're comfortable, you got to put in like 10 years.
Your Titans, Brian, they made a big trade.
Yeah.
And from what I saw, I haven't really saw the full details of the trade, but it doesn't look like they gave up a whole lot to get Julio.
No, they gave up. So far, it's a 2nd-round pick next year, and then a 6th-round pick as well.
Yeah,
but that's
for
not
a future Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Yeah, and I mean they're, you know, with the Titans really haven't been a team like that to have like an off-season splash like that in a long time.
Trust me, we get it. Me and John get it more than anybody being Panthers fans.
Yeah. Well, so
Sam Darnold's our biggest splash.
I'm just gonna go ahead and clear the air on this too, because what I've seen through like all these different media outlets that talk about football, talk about the NFL. Julio before he got signed a couple weeks ago said that he wanted a big arm QB and he wanted somewhere he can go to win. And everyone's like trashing Ryan Tannehill, but like the Titans aren't a big market team, so unless you watch them, you don't know what you're talking about. So Ryan Tannehill is, since he joined Tennessee, there's statistics to back it up too. He's a top 10 QB for sure in the league, without a doubt. And people have been arguing with like, I'm in this Facebook football trash talk page, and one of my friends posted that, and people have been attacking this guy for like 2 days now, saying that he's not, but like the stats are there. I mean, the guy he leads, he's top 3 in the league in 12 different categories, where you have, you know, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and I mean, who else? Like, I mean, anyone you want to throw up, Mahomes, any of those guys you want to throw up there, he's right there with them. I think the thing is too, I think Julio's going to have an opportunity to be successful here, but I don't think that they're looking at him to be a number 1 wide receiver like he has been in Atlanta. I mean, we got, I think AJ Brown's going to be your number 1. I really think the Titans are in that Super Bowl window for the next 3 years at least, and then, you know, they'll probably, because Tannehill and Derrick Henry's contracts will be up, and they're, you know, you're basically putting your eggs in that basket with signing those guys and how much you're paying them. So,
Well, Brian, we'll get you out of here unless John has another question for you. If not, where can people find you at? Give us your social media handles, and we'll tweet it all out. And again, tell them where you're playing at, and that way they can find you there as well.
Yeah. Well, I would love to say come see me on tour this year, but that's not happening. Yeah, for the meantime, if you're in town, I'm at the stage on Broadway Friday through Sunday. Late shift, so it's like 10:45 to 2:15. And then Legends Corner, I'm there on Mondays, same time, 10:15 to 2:40 to 2:35-ish. And then yeah, Instagram, that's pretty much the only thing I use, really. So it's Bryan Betts 114. Picture me playing drums. So you can weed that.
Nice.
But
nice. Well, Brian, we enjoyed it. I didn't get my shout out, so I'm gonna do it one more time because I didn't bring a Budweiser on here like I've been doing for the past 2 shows. Budweiser, hit me up. I need that sponsorship.
Thanks, Brian.
Good plug.
That's right.